Becky? Hello? Kristen?
Yes.
Hello?
Hi.
You sound exhausted, Kristen.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
New York.
Oh, okay. Where in New York?
North Babylon.
So Long Island.
Yeah.
Okay. I grew up in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Becky?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So Becky, where are you from?
I'm from New York as well.
Oh, okay. So we have a lot of New Yorkers tonight. Where in New York are you from?
I'm from St. Johnsville. It's like an hour east of Albany.
Oh, wow. You're way up there.
Yeah.
You have more snow than we did when I lived in Wisconsin.
Yeah, we really got hit this past summer.
Huh. And we have one more person I see coming on. But right now it just says R9.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Sorry, it should have been Robin.
Oh, Robin. Okay.
Sorry.
I wasn't sure if R9 was like, are you a computer designation or?
No, like I messed up. I'm sorry.
No,
I was trying to get in.
Where are you from, Robin?
I'm from Ithaca, New York.
Oh boy, so we're heavy on New York people tonight.
Yeah.
Well, good. That's okay. I haven't lived in New York in a long time, but I went to college in New York.
Oh, awesome.
And I grew up in New Jersey, so
Oh.
down by the Jersey Shore. But I don't tell people that after that show came out. I never knew a Snooki or a Situation or any of those people. Okay, I think what we're going to do, if it's all right with you guys, is we'll get started. Feel free to ask questions. If you need to cook dinner while you're doing this, that's fine too. If your children would also like to learn about edTPA, I have no objections. Because I hear some kids. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably mine.
Well, you know what? That's fine. How old are your kids?
7 and 8. I'm on the porch and they're in the pool, so.
Ah, very good. I should be doing this seminar from the pool.
Right?
That would probably be a good idea. I like that, Becky. You are my new favorite. But yeah, my children are grown. I have 3 sons and 3 grandsons.
Aww.
So we're offering more money if any of my kids can have a girl this time, but so far, no takers. Okay. Let's begin. Are you all special ed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Good. Today we're going to start talking about task 1. Now, you may have seen this webinar, but we're going to go through it and we're going to discuss it, and then you can ask any questions that you have. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about edTPA. Getting through, 2 days of the course. What is edTPA? This is the audience participation time. Aside from being a pain in the yaktaba, Hello?
So from what I've seen, it's a digital portfolio that we have to submit to kind of prove that we have what it takes to be a teacher, I guess, in my own words.
Yes, that's fine. That's good. You're doing fine. Don't be shy. Okay? I live in Michigan. So trust me, I'm not going to come to your house if you get a wrong answer. And we also have Tanya. Hello, Tanya. Okay. The edTPA is a new assessment, relatively new. It's been around a couple of years, which is a portfolio assessment. So you don't have to take any tests. It consists of 3 tasks, and let's take a look at those. Oh, that was nice.
Sorry.
No, Kristen, I like musical accompaniment. Okay. The first task is planning for instruction. The second task is instructing. And the third task is assessing. Now, in order for your edTPA to be complete, you're going to have to complete all 3 of these tasks. What we're going to be doing over the next week is we'll have this tonight, it's Tuesday. We'll have number 2 on Thursday night, task 2. And then on Sunday night, I have 2 of these courses. We're going to have a joint session on task 3. So there could be like 8 of you. So, sorry about that. There we go. So let's begin. For this assessment, you will first develop 3 to 5 consecutive learning experiences that build on each other and are to be presented over the course of 1 week. These 3 to 5 learning experiences are referred to as a learning segment. Now, I will translate this for you into regular teacher English. Your learning experiences are also called lesson plans. And a learning segment we usually call a learning unit. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to decide on a learning goal, and you're going to do a unit on that learning goal. The unit will consist of 3 to 5 lessons. So for example, who can give me an example of a learning goal? You can unmute yourselves if you wish.
A learning goal can be, well, Susie will learn how to sequence by the end of the school year.
Yeah, it could be, we're not looking for something that's going to be all year long, but in my own area, I teach at-risk and I teach history. Students will learn about the Civil War. That's a learning goal. Okay? So you're going to choose a learning goal or 2. Don't choose 12 learning goals, because for edTPA, you're going to have to prove that your student has learned. Talk about that. So you need to develop 3 to 5 lesson plans. Now, edTPA does not have its own lesson plan template. My suggestion is that you use the GCU template that you've become familiar with during your coursework. Okay? That will be fine for edTPA. Now, one of the important things about, I keep saying now too much. If I do it again, New Yorkers throw something at me. Okay. One of the differences with edTPA from other assessments is that it is student-centered rather than teacher-centered. What does that mean?
Is it when students are doing most of the talking and yeah, sorry.
Yes, no, Robin, don't say you're sorry. You're fine. You're right. Yes. It'll be okay, everyone, I promise. I can't even see you. So, student-centered means that the focus of edTPA is on whether or not your student learned. It is not on how you taught. So, for example, if you have a student in special ed, this happens all the time. If you have a student act out in class and you use the perfect behavior modification technique, guess what? edTPA really doesn't care. They're interested in whether or not your student learned. In order to prove that, are they going to take your word for it? No. You will have to provide evidence, data. So the focus of your edTPA is going to be to show that your student learned and provide evidence, data, that this is the case. So let's talk about task 1, which is planning for instruction. We're going to talk about the things that are here. We'll just get right to it, because I usually go over. What do I need to think about? In planning task 1, you will describe your plans for the learning segment and explain how the learning experiences you have planned are appropriate for the child you are teaching. Okay? Think about, what does your focus learner know? What can he or she do? And what is he or she still learning to do? How would you measure that? Remember, everything has to be measured. How would you measure what your focus learner already knows? Kristen, I'm going to pick on you because you're not muted.
You could always ask them probing questions and then look at everything that they've learned before. Do like a KWL chart, I guess, to see what they know and then see what they still have to learn.
Exactly. You would use some kind of a pre-assessment, wouldn't you? In order to write your lesson plans and make sure that they're effective, you're going to need to know what the student knows. For example, if you were to sit down with a student and you're thinking, I'm going to teach this student how to add double-digit numbers. And so you give the student a pre-assessment, and what happens? They complete every equation correctly. What does that say to you?
So they've met that particular goal.
Right. That's right. Don't teach them what they already know. You're going to find that instructional time is very, very precious. There isn't a lot of it. And so you're going to need to make sure that you're not teaching the students something they already know. So you would use a pre-assessment to determine that. Now, what's the good thing about a pre-assessment? After you're done teaching, what then do you do with it? You give it as a post-assessment, right? And that creates data for you, doesn't it? Hello?
Yeah, you can base that off of what they learned and then see how much they learned and how much they gained, I guess, in knowledge.
Exactly. Exactly. And that gives you data. It gives you evidence, right? So you know what they need to learn at the beginning. At the end, you can use the same pre-assessment to measure what they have learned. And that's one of your data points. That's one of the things that's going to show that your student learned. Okay? Okay. What does the focus learner need to learn to make progress toward the selected learning goal? Now it says here non-academic. We're doing academic. So don't worry about the non-academic piece. What are the important knowledge and skills you want the focus learner to develop within the learning segment? So basically, you've got a learning goal. Now you're going to create objectives. You're going to create what you want the students to learn during each lesson so that they get to the learning goal at the end of your unit. 3 to 5 lessons. If you have questions, feel free to ask at any time. Okay. What else do you need to think about? What instructional strategies and learning tasks will you design to support access, learning, and related communication? What is an instructional strategy? Hello? I'm not going to pick on you anymore, Kristen. I'm going to pick on Becky now. Because she's sitting out by the pool. Instructional, go ahead, Becky.
Okay, so it would be the way that the teacher delivers the instruction to the students?
Yes, absolutely. How are you going to deliver instruction? Are you going to lecture? No, you don't want to do just lecture, do you?
No.
No. Okay. Here's a rule of thumb about lecture, by the way. 30% lecture, 70% active learning. Have you ever had to sit in a class that just went on and the professor just talked and talked, sort of like I'm doing right now? It can get deadly, okay? I once had to do that for a whole day. It was not fun. Same professor. It was interesting topic, but not fun, okay? So you want to do 70-30. About 10 minutes out of a 45-minute period, 10 to 15 minutes, you're going to do lecture, and then you're going to do active learning. So what strategies are you going to use for active learning, for your edTPA? Don't say to me, by the way, and I know none of you ever would because now I know you so well. Don't tell me you're going to give them worksheets. Okay? I hate worksheets.
Do you mean like visuals, tactile? So, for example, if I'm reading a book called Lemonade in Winter, I'll have them actually make lemonade and have.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I mean. That's
Okay.
exactly what I mean. So you have them read, but then you need to do something active with them. Okay? And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Even things like reading to each other in groups, assigning each one a role, those kinds of things. But for edTPA and special education, you are going to be dealing with one focused student. We'll get to that in a minute and talk about how that works. Okay? How will you monitor and record the focused learner's progress toward the lesson objectives? So you're going to have to find a way to make sure that you know the focused learner is making progress. One of those ways that I'm going to tell you is I want each of you to keep a notebook by your side. Okay? And you need to write down a synopsis of what happened during that lesson. So that if you have that aha moment, you all know what that is, right? The aha moment is when you see your student's face light up and you know that they've got it. They know what's going on. If that happens during one of your lessons, you want to take note of it, because those notes that you take can be used as, let me hear it, evidence, data. Okay? So you're going to want to make sure that you have a notebook by your side. When we talk about videotaping, we'll discuss that on Thursday, but we'll talk about what that means and how you're going to use that for evidence as well. All right? How is the teaching you propose informed by your knowledge of your focused learner? This is important. In special education for edTPA, you get one focus learner. So do not choose a student with whom you do not have a rapport. Let's do it the other way around to make it positive. Choose a student with whom you have a good relationship. Okay? So it may take you a little bit of time to choose your focus student. That's okay. All right. How is the teaching you propose supported by research and theory about how children learn? So when you do differentiation and you talk about it in your commentary, it was a very good idea to cite research about differentiation. Now, how many of you have mean professors like me that make you cite references in your discussion posts?
I have.
Have you,
Yeah,
Tom?
me too.
Good, good. Kristen, Becky?
Yeah, every time.
Yes.
I know. We're horrible. We are. No, we're not. This is why I want you to do it. This is important. The difference between a 4 and a 5 on the rubric is whether or not you cite sources. for what you do. So if you are using differentiation, then cite an article about differentiation. Okay? And you should all be used to that now because you've been doing it in your courses. So there is a method to our meanness and our madness. Okay. What do I need to do? You need to select one learner, hereafter called your focus student, with an IEP or a behavior modification plan as a focus for this assessment. So, unlike the other edTPA portfolios, you need only one focus student. My suggestion to you is that you find a time to work with your focus student by yourselves. Do not do it as part of a group. Certainly do not teach the whole class when you're working on edTPA. Okay? Now, be aware that your evaluations for GCU are different than this. So your faculty supervisor may ask you to teach the whole class for their evaluation, but we can't use evaluations for the edTPA, okay? Simply because they're evaluated. We are not permitted to evaluate any of the work that you're going to send into edTPA. We can give you hints. But when you go into your courses this fall, or whenever you're going to be taking them, we cannot tell you whether it's right or it's wrong. We can tell you in general to look at things, but we're not allowed to give you direction. Okay, any questions about your one focus student?
I have a question.
Yes.
If something happens to the student or something's just not working out, are you allowed to switch students in the middle?
Absolutely. Remember, when you go into your student teaching course, the only people who are going to see your submissions are you and your instructor. Nothing is getting sent to edTPA until you send it. And that's going to be at the end of all your student teaching. So if you need to play around with things, the time to do it is in your course, in your student teaching course. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
And I've had that happen. I teach the special ed student teaching. I don't know if I'll have any of you. Are any of you becoming masters? Are any of you master students?
I am.
Robin, you are?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's possible that I'll have you.
Okay, yay.
Hi.
Lord help you. Anyway. So you're going to do one focus learner. If something happens, you can make a change. And that does happen. Now, be very careful here, because if you choose a student that has a behavior modification plan and no IEP, okay, you can do that, but the learning goal has to reflect one of the academic content areas. So you cannot base edTPA off, you can't base it on whether or not the student behavior has improved. Okay? You can only base it on an academic content area. What do you need to do? Although the context may be a general education or special ed classroom, identify one learner with a disability identified in his or her IEP as a focus for this assessment. The focus learner you select should have multiple learning needs. That's usually not hard. You should not change the instructional setting. You will continue to teach in the context in which you normally teach, teaching content you would normally teach. So don't veer away from the curriculum. Whatever it is that is being taught in terms of special education in that curriculum, that's what you're going to teach. But you can choose your content area. Okay, and you can work with the student by yourself. Okay, so in the planning commentary, and it's going to be one of the first things that you submit in your student teaching course, is the context for learning information form. Have any of you come across the templates and the handbook yet?
I glanced at it, but I didn't really pay attention to it yet.
Oh no, Tanya. Okay, your handbook is your Bible for the next 6 months or however long it's going to take you to do this. Okay?
Okay.
And that's for everybody, not just you, Tanya. You will see that there are templates provided for you to use for edTPA. The first of these templates is simply demographic information. So it's called the Context for Learning form, and it's in the handbook, but it's also on the PLN. Everything that you're going to need to do edTPA is on the PLN. You do not need to register with Pearson until you are ready to submit. So you don't have to pay the $300 right away. By the way, on behalf of Grand Canyon University, I want you to know that that $300 does not come to us. We don't see it. We don't deal with it. It is purely a Pearson fee. Because every so often I get someone who writes to me, it's not right that GCU charges us an extra $300. No, we don't charge you an extra anything. That is Pearson's fee for doing Pearson's work. But all the information that you're going to need is on the PLN. Have any of you been on the PLN?
I have. Is that the module thing we have to do?
Well, the modules are on the PLN.
Okay.
But they are not the entire PLN.
Okay.
So the modules that you're doing, the forums are on the PLN. The modules themselves are on what we call soft chalk, which is a new way that we've been teaching this course. And I will apologize ahead of time. This is the first time that we're using that platform, and it's great, and it's doing what we need it to do. But as with every new platform, there are glitches. And so some of you may have experienced those. If you find a glitch, contact Tracy Vasquez, and she'll help you out. Okay. So the context for learning, it's really not difficult at all. It just gives essential information about your focus student and the school and the classroom. You get no more than 4 pages, including the prompt. Most people don't need to use that many pages. Okay, identify one learning goal for the focus learner. Where can you find the learning goal? For our special education student.
Is it from their IEP or behavioral plan? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. You know, you don't even have to make something up. The learning goals will be on the IEP, and in fact, edTPA wants you to choose one from the IEP. Okay? You can select from the following content areas: literacy, English, math, social studies, or science. Okay? And so you really have a choice of what learning goal you're looking for and how you're going to present it. Other edTPA assessments do not have choices like that, by the way. So consider yourselves lucky, in a way. Okay. Baseline, knowledge of the focused learner before lesson planning. So what you're going to do is, for each of the categories listed in the next few slides, describe what you know about the focused learner's strengths and challenges as related to the lesson objectives of the learning segment. Very important. Do not stray from the path of true righteousness, because you need to focus and align laser-like on the learning goal. So if you are teaching a student how to do math, do not stop one day to give that student vocabulary lessons, even if it's about math. Teaching vocabulary is different than teaching math. Everybody kind of understand? And they will get upset about that. Alignment is a key issue. Okay, you need to cite evidence of what the learner knows, what she or he can do, etc., and what the student is learning to do in relation to the learning goal and your plan supports. In other words, your instructional methods. So you want to do prior learning experiences, including prerequisite, I sounded like Elmer Fudd for a minute, knowledge and skills related to the lesson objectives. Okay, so again, this is where our pre-assessment will come in. You also want to make sure that you know about things like the focused learner's interests and strengths. What kind of life experiences have they had? Self-management skills. So you need to know a lot about your focus student, and so that's why you need a focus student with whom you have a rapport. Okay, identify one expressive receptive communication skill related to the learning goal. Now, normally this will be talking and listening and reading and all of that. But remember, if you have someone who cannot speak, that doesn't mean that you can't use them for edTPA. they would need to have some kind of method of communication. It could be assisted technology. It could be sign language. It could be any of the things that help people communicate with each other. Okay? But if you're going to do the academics, which you're all going to do, the skills should be related to the language used in the academic discipline. This is what we call academic language. So are any of you math teachers? Science? Do any of you do some social studies?
Do you mean like that's the only topic we teach, or in general?
No, just in general.
Okay, so I'm in a 5th grade class, so we touch pretty much everything, but because of special education, we run a program called ABLES, so not too much academia.
Okay, so say you were going to teach a math lesson.
Mm-hmm.
You would need to use the correct vocabulary for math. Every content area has its own vocabulary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were teaching math, you would never say to a student, we're going to plus 3 and 4. What would you say?
We're going to add.
Exactly. You would need to use the vocabulary of the area, okay, of the academic discipline. If you were in social studies, you would need to do the same thing. If you were in science, also the same thing. Okay? And so you need to make sure that you use the academic language of the discipline you have chosen to teach. Design a learning segment of 3 to 5 consecutive lessons to provide access to curriculum and instruction and support the focused learner in meeting the learning goal. Write a lesson plan for each lesson in your learning segment. Lesson plans should be written for the entire group you will be instructing. Do not copy verbatim from curriculum materials, but communicate the plans in your own words. There are so many schools that are now using canned lesson plans. It makes me crazy. Okay. And it is not what they're looking for. All right? So if you have a lesson plan that somebody else wrote or whatever, do it in your own voice. They want to hear you. The lesson plan must contain one lesson objective with measurable criteria, assessment tools and data collection procedures, instructional strategies and learning tasks, the communication skill and plan supports, plans for teaching toward generalization, maintenance, and or self-directed use of knowledge and skills, a list of resources and materials, including accommodations and modifications. Okay, I think we lost Robin. So, on page 19...
I'm sorry. That previous slide, is there a way for me to access it?
Oh, you know what? Can I give you an easy way to do it?
Sure.
Use the GCU template.
Okay.
Our GCU lesson plan template has everything you're going to need.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? See, I'm here to make it easier for you, Tanya. All right, here's a planning chart in the SPED handbook on page 19. Take a look at it. It will help you organize your thoughts a little bit. Okay. In planning task 1, you're going to write your context for learning template, your lesson plans, and a commentary explaining your plans. It's 3 things. All right. Your commentary is a template, and you're going to respond to the prompts. It should be no more than 12 single-spaced pages. So, oh, Robin, we're glad you're back. It should be no more than 12 single-spaced pages. That doesn't mean that you need to fill up 12 single-spaced pages. It just means you can't go over that number. Nobody is judging you by the number of pages that you write. So your commentary should be no more than 12 single-spaced pages, but it doesn't have to be 12 pages. If necessary, a transcription of inaudible comments, no more than 2 additional pages, can be submitted at the end of the assessment commentary. Now that's task 3, that's the last commentary. And so that would make sense that that's where a transcription would go. These additional pages do not count towards your 12. Okay. Respond to the commentary prompts listed in the planning commentary section prior to carrying out the learning segment. In other words, you need to finish everything in task 1 before you move on to task 2. So don't assume you're going to get this done during the first week of student teaching. You're going to start working on your planning that first week, but you're not going to be able to teach until you're not going to be able to teach your edTPA lesson until you have completed all of your planning activities. So here's what you're going to submit. You're going to submit your lesson plans. You're going to select and submit key instructional and support materials. Submit blank copies of all written assessments and/or data sheets. So if you are using a quiz or a test or an assessment, a pre-assessment, you need to make sure that you submit all of those as blank copies with your planning commentary. Okay? Make sure that you have citations for everything that you did not create. Hello, Felicia, welcome. Now, we're not going to take a lot of time to go over the rubrics because I want to give you a few minutes to ask questions. But here is what I will tell you. Number 1, I want you to make sure you go over these yourself. Use them. You should have 2 things in front of you when you do your planning commentary. You should have the template that you're using, and you should have these rubrics because they relate directly to the planning commentary, the first 5 rubrics. The other thing you should know is that edTPA begins scoring at level 3. So if you read the requirements for level 3 and what you're doing does not meet those requirements, then it's going to be scored lower. If what you're doing meets the requirement of level 3 and more, then you would get a 4 or a 5. Okay, everybody understand that? So they don't start with 1, they start with level 3. So this would be the planning for alignment and development of knowledge and skills. Remember, I told you alignment is very important. Planning, challenge, and support for the focused learner is rubric 2. Justification of instruction and support. Fine, you're doing a certain thing. Why did you choose a manipulative over making lemonade? By the way, I'd go with the making lemonade, whoever that was.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
It wasn't really a question. Tanya, it's okay. I said I would go with making the lemonade. All right. Supporting the focused learner's use of expressive receptive communication. Okay. Did you identify and support a communication skill for the student to participate in the learning tasks? And that goes back to what we discussed before. And rubric 5, planning assessments to monitor and support learning. So what kind of assessments? So what are we talking about when we talk about assessments? We talked about the pre-assessment. What other kinds of assessments are there?
Formal and informal.
Right, formal and informal. And they can be formative and summative. A formative assessment could be writing in your journal, in your daily journal, based on your observations, observing the videotape, which we're going to talk about on Thursday. It could be a quiz, it could be a worksheet. A summative could be a test. It could be an essay, could really be anything. Do not use a performance as an assessment for edTPA. And certainly do not use any group work. They'll throw that back at you. So if you end up taking a group of students, which I do not recommend, don't use, like if they all do a poster together, edTPA is not going to want you to send that. Because it's hard to determine what represents your focus students' work as opposed to everybody else's work. Okay, professional responsibilities, citations. And you're going to want to list all of those citations by lesson number at the end of the planning commentary. Remember that you're going to need to align instruction with your state standards. And that's going to be easy because your learning goals are going to be aligned with the state standard. And that's on the IEP. Okay, and here we are. I'm not sure you can tell which one is me. We are the edTPA Clinical Practice Mentors. The College of Education has 2 mentors, myself and Dr. Lizette Pickens. And we will be working with you. You have access to us at any time, even when you are in your student teaching course. If you have questions about edTPA, you may contact us. And so that's why we're also facilitating the PAST course. Okay, I am happy now to turn it over to you and answer any questions you've ever had. By the way, this has been recorded, and I will put up a copy tomorrow morning in the Zoom meetings forum, okay? So, any questions you've ever had about edTPA, but were afraid to ask?
Would we be able to use a pre-assessment as one of the lessons that we use for the edTPA to basically show what they know, or should we just write what they know?
No, no, no. You can use a pre-assessment as part of your first lesson plan, sure.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. If there are no further questions, then
Also, sorry.
that's
Are
okay.
videos going to be at 6 o'clock as well on Thursday and Sunday?
Yes, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will do what I did this time. I'll put up tomorrow, I'll put up a notice about it in the Zoom meeting section. And then on the day of, I will send out reminders again. That seems to work. So, very good. Thank you all for being here. Next time, get ready. Video tapes. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Becky, we're all coming over to your house.
All right, sounds good.
'Cause you have a pool, so we're all on our way.
All right.
All righty. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
No problem.